Okay, so hello, and
Hello.
welcome to Porscha. Yay!
Hello, Josephine, and thank you for having me.
Honestly, I have been so looking forward to this session. I know that you were running around this morning, and so was I. And the fact that the two of us
Yeah,
finally somehow aligned is a bit of a miracle in
there we
itself.
go.
And,
It's meant to
but
be.
bless. But I wanted to just kind of go back in time a little bit because I was trying to remember when you and I first met. And I mean, I think it must be like 12 years ago, maybe 15. Yeah, like it's a huge amount of time. It's a
Gosh,
long
it
time ago.
was. It was. I mean, I think it was probably on a L'Oreal hair show or something like that. Is it? Was
Oh
it?
my God, was it? Because in my head, I thought we did that really weird fashion
Oh no, we did.
fashion
Yeah.
video
The
somewhere
Greek
in
designer.
that's it. Somewhere in Old
Yeah.
Street. It was crazy cold. I
Yes.
was in quite a bad mood, but I remember going, this woman is nice.
Oh God, Josephine. Oh my God. It's because also we were connected before that because you were on there with my friend Joe, who I'd known since I was like 14. So we had
Oh my
sort of probably crossed paths before then. And were you in the same year as Joe? Or just
Yes,
at
I
the same time?
was.
Oh my God, no way. So yeah, so I'm sure because I used to go to St. Margaret's and Twickenham and go out and see and visit Joe. So I'm
I,
sure we probably even like partied together without even realizing. Do you know what
no,
I
that
mean? I don't
no,
know.
no, but that's so true. I'm sitting here going,
Yeah.
I think Joe might, I think actually coming to think of it, I think she was a few years after me.
Oh mate,
But
yeah.
anyway, it's such a haze because I came to London like nearly 24 years ago now. And you know, when
Oh
you
my
start to try
God.
and puzzle it in, it's like it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But
Oh
anyway,
my
so
God.
that's kind of how we met, right? And
Yeah.
like we said, and then we kind of been orbiting around each other through
I think
various
so.
connections and even like last year where all of a sudden you came to my birthday party and
Yes, which
you
was
asked
wonderful.
me, oh, wonderful. And then you asked me if I wanted to be part of your show, if you know.
Oh
And at
yeah.
that
Oh
point,
my
I didn't
God, that
even,
was then. Yeah.
that's it. And at that point, I didn't even know that you were a singer as well as everything else. Like, I knew you were an actress. I knew you were a
Yeah.
dancer. I knew you did, you know, not costume, but like design for,
Oh yeah.
yeah, for
Film.
movies and films and all of
Yeah.
that, like set design, that's it. Like, so just like myself, I know you were like hugely creative, but
Yeah.
the singing, and then, when I was going down to do that performance with you last year, all of a sudden, one of my clients from Shoreditch House, another yoga client, was like,
Oh yeah,
"Oh my God,
Lizzie.
you
Yeah.
know Portia."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so it's like the whole universe is like, the two of you must know each other.
Oh yeah. And then as you yeah, that is so funny. It is literally like we're orbiting through different connections. Love that. Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And so the reason why I wanted to invite you here to the podcast today, as I had a brief little catch up with you before we started recording, is just that thing that you're just one of those people that have always inspired me so much. And even if we're not constantly in touch, I love your energy. You're always
Oh,
really positive. You're always like got lots of things going on. Whatever life serves you, you will squeeze it into lemonades.
oh, that's very good of you to say.
I,
Thank you. I
no,
try my best.
I absolutely loved it. And what I also love is that you are not, well, at least from this is how it looks and feels for me. You're never someone who sits and wait for the magic to happen. You
Yeah.
create the magic, you know?
Oh,
You're,
oh.
you're, 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 you are very much your own witch or wizard.
Yeah. I
Got
guess
my
so,
little wand
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
First things first, can you tell
Yes.
us a little bit about, sort of what's your background, Portia? You
Oh
can
my
go as far back
goodness.
as you like.
Well, I was born and raised in Ireland, sort of in the middle of nowhere, I guess. So I've always been used to being in the countryside, in a sort of a fantasy world, that you could say. My father, he was a writer and a sort of an eccentric, I describe him as. And my mum was a dancer back in the day, in the days of variety on TV, in the heyday of variety. So she had a fantastic career, which I was always envious of. would have been amazing. The things that she did and the people that she worked with, the choreographers that she worked with, yeah, it was incredible. Like, sort of really kind of like pushing boundaries with choreography and stuff, and she didn't even know it. Do you know what I mean? She's, oh yeah, showing me this video of something that she did. I'm like, oh my god, wow, that's so avant-garde. And she's like, what is it? And then so I just grew up in this kind of creative household, a bit wacky. And so boundaries were kind of like not always there, like in terms of creative boundaries. And so, you know, it was sort of like unlimited possibilities. My dad was a bit kind of a dreamer, and he basically, I don't know, to sum him up, he found this full concert Steinway grand piano in an old church hall in County Meath, where my parents lived at the time, in just south of Dublin. He found it in the church hall, and he went to the vicar. He said, "What's this beautiful instrument doing here? You know, it's sort of all sort of broken up, and it wasn't even hardly playing, I don't think, at the time." And the vicar said, "Oh God, it's in the way. Please, do you want it?" And he was like, because my dad loved the piano. He played a little bit of piano, but he just had this love for piano playing and for music. He wasn't a musician himself, a sort of a novice, I guess. But he had this real kind of, you know, affinity for the piano specifically. And he was like, "Oh my goodness, yes, please, I'll give you 50 quid for the roof." As a gesture of goodwill. So he went home to my mum and he said, "I found this full concert Steinway grand piano. We need to find a house to fit it in." And that was like in the late 80s, early 90s. And she was like, "All right." And so they found this old, like, rotting mansion in the south of Ireland, which was going for peanuts at the time because no one wanted those houses. I don't think they still do in Ireland, to be honest. Sort of a Georgian house, yeah, with some fields around it and stuff. And we moved into there. I was about 3 at the time, all because of the piano, you know. And so that was the kind of vibe I was going with, you know what I mean? Like, no restrictions, you know, when it comes to what you want and what you dream. So I think that was where it sort of started with my parents. I think both of them. Yeah. And then my mom was being a dancer. She had a ballet school. Out of necessity, she started teaching ballet. And she trained me up until the age of 11 and got me into the Royal Ballet School. I went to the Royal Ballet School for a few years. I had injuries and things like that, like often people do, and it's always a tragedy. And then I ended up moving to a school called Tring Park, which was amazing. Had an incredible time there. That kind of diversified my interest in the arts. So I wasn't just doing ballet, I was doing all sorts of dance and then music and drama, which I loved. And then with my injury, it got worse and I had an operation. And then it put me into I had to go onto the drama course for like 6 months whilst I was recovering, which is very kind of the school to let me do that. And then during that time, I thought, oh yeah, I think I am an actress. Because all the way through, like when I was at the Royal Ballet School and when I was at Tring, I always with my friends would like make films and movies with them. And that was and I loved drama class and I loved clowning about. And I love just, being theatrical and the acting side and the theatrical side of things, mostly, I think. And so, so during that time, it sort of solidified this. That's what I think I want to do, but I need to be a dancer first because you need the body for it. So when I left school, I worked as a dancer. Actually, I worked as a model and a dancer, similar work to you, Josephine. You sort of get to combine the two, which often brings you to these wonderful mad places where you're sort of filming for some commercial or some music video as a dancer, and you get to be really creative because often you're given your own kind of like creative license to kind of do what you want often, or you're working with incredible choreographers on these things. I mean, I remember doing this like really random e-cigarette ad with this incredible dancer from the Royal Ballet, and I was like, wow, I wouldn't necessarily have got this opportunity, you know, normally, but it was like we were put together on this shoot. And it was just, it was so fun. So combining the two things, modeling and dancing, had a lot of fun with that, hair shows and things like that. And and then, but all the time in the back of my mind, I thought, well, I you know, my end goal really is to be a serious actress. Like, I don't necessarily like that term, but yeah, because I'm not serious, and I don't think you have to always be serious to be a good actress. But anyway, so I was like in my 20s and I thought, I don't know if I I wonder, how am I going to do this? I need to train as an actress. And I made the decision to go and study English literature part-time, which I was able to do whilst I was working as a dancer and a model to sort of pay for my living expenses. I was lucky to get some funding for the tuition fees. And so all I had to do was pay for my living expenses, but I could work at the same time. And so I studied English literature, because I never considered myself an academic person or have that kind of a mind, and I still don't. And to be honest, to this day, I think, absolutely, people have certain kinds of minds, don't they? And they work in certain ways, and mine is not like that. And and it's interesting growing up, because you learn to accept who you are, what your assets are, and what your pitfalls and what your strengths are. But it was incredible experience to be, in that scholarly world of academia, and to study English and do it part-time. It was tough. It was like, even though it was part-time, it was, it was still there was a lot of essays, a lot of reading to do in between working. So I struggled, but it was incredible to learn that kind of way of thinking. And then with a view to kind of it helping my acting abilities and my understanding of text and things like that, because I had never been immersed in that world. It was always a physical world to me. It was never like the mind. It was always physical. So I thought that would help with my understanding of theatre and dramaturgy and everything. So and then I realized quite quickly, even though I was doing theatre modules there, that I would need to train as an actress. That became apparent. And so then I started auditioning for MA courses, 1-year courses, because I thought, look, I'm in my mid to late 20s now. I kind of, if I went away for another 3 years, I feel like I've got quite a lot of experience performing, not necessarily as an actor, but being on the stage and stuff. So I thought, I think I can do this. And I found a course, it was Drama Centre, which was sort of rooted in movement, in Laban movement. And I thought, wow, that's the course for me. Yeah. So to utilize the skills that I have, and I really wanted to get on that course. I actually didn't get in the first year. I was on the waiting list, I think it was. And I auditioned for all the schools, all the different masters courses, but really wanted the Drama Centre one. And then got into a few places, but it was Drama Centre that I wanted. So then I waited to the next year and then got in. And actually it was quite interesting, because I was still on the waiting list, and I wrote to the course leader and I said, this is the place that I want to go to. I'm going to keep auditioning, because I knew that I could get into a drama, because I got into other places. I wasn't sort of like a lost cause.
Of course not.
Dramas because no one wants me. I was like, this is the place I want to be at, and I'm going to continue auditioning for you until you let me in. Basically, I wrote him a letter. Either I sent it to him in person or I wrote him a letter. I can't actually remember, but yeah, that was what happened, and he let me in.
I love that. I'm gonna allow you and encourage you to take a breath here, because your story is so wonderful. And it's and what I love more than anything is this thing of it's kind of similar, just like your whole upbringing. Like, you grew up in a house that was inspired and actually was created around a piano, right?
Yeah,
around the love of the piano, right? And then it's like listening to your story, it's kind of like, and actually your story is so similar to mine, which I never actually knew. So as you know, I also trained at the Royal Danish Ballet and all of that. So we've got the ballet connection, but more like in terms of how we think about life, how we approach life.
Yeah.
I also come from a background where essentially, so my story is not the piano, but it could have been anything else. I mean, with my parents, there were zero restrictions.
Right.
In terms of, it's not like I was allowed to go out at any sort of times or, free like that. But in terms of whatever I wanted to do for a living, and my parents had no money. So it's not like, oh, we could just afford everything. But there was never I grew up in a household where the only boundaries was your own imagination. So the only thing that stopped you from thinking and dreaming and taking action was literally your own imagination. Yeah. And it was the same thing, whether it was about, how we decorated the house, how we changed the interior design, what kind of food we made. It was never a matter of, what do we actually have? It was always a matter of, what do we want to create?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, no boundaries is brilliant.
Zero boundaries. And right. And I think of course, that also has its challenges at times in life. I totally get that. And
Yeah.
similar to you, when you're saying like you're sitting there and you're like, wow, okay, I know my strength and I also know what they are. And I know my weaknesses, right? But
Mm,
honestly, to have this undying dream that keeps moving you and motivating you, even when
mm.
the going gets tough,
Yeah.
is just absolutely wonderful. And I can see now even more clearly why I resonate so much with you because
How funny. Yeah, it's very, yeah,
like
absolutely.
anyway, let's pop back over to you again. So okay, so
Oh,
you wrote this gorgeous letter, which I also just love. It's like, hey, this is who I am. I know my
yeah.
qualities. This is like I want you. This is what I can bring to the table. I will
Mm.
keep on pursuing you until you just say yes.
Because I knew, yeah, absolutely. Because I knew it was the right fit. It was the place for me, and I like,
Yeah.
yeah, everything about it. And so, yeah. But I was glad I did it because you got to be bold. You got to, what's it, duck and dive to survive is what my dad used to taught me. He was a little bit of a Del boy, but not. And you kind of like, yeah, you got to go after what you want and try and get it and be a bit cheeky.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something I definitely inherited from my dad. I got a little bit of that sort of cheeky side where I kind of will go after something and pursue it. But yeah, I loved drama school. It was amazing. Oh my goodness, a year of just whoa. You're in there from 8 in the morning. I mean, because of the training I had with ballet, I was very sort of disciplined, I think, and so I think I made absolutely. I can honestly, confidently say I made the most of that year. I went in really early, and then was the last to leave always, and you found it really rekindled. And then because I'd sort of let dance go, it actually, funnily enough, rekindled my love for dance because we did movement from a different angle. It was like organic movement,
Yes. Yes.
real authentic movement where I had this foundation of technique, which is vital, of course. And
Mhm.
so it was like, oh my goodness, I love dance again. And also because I was very experienced in dance, I was able to help my friends in my class. And that felt nice as well to be able to give something to them and if I found it inspiring because like a cycle, and they were inspired to learn and and improve and stuff. And we all kind of, I guess, uh sort of inspired each other to kind of gain something more from our movement classes, which were incredible. We had this incredible movement teacher, and also singing. That was another place. It was another thing that I gained when I was at drama school, was confidence to sing, because being at Tring Park, it's a school of like musical theatre heavyweights.
Hmm.
So I was always like really lacking in confidence when it came to singing and
Wow.
anything musical theatre. Although I was really I wanted to do it so much, I kind of really was, I lacked confidence in it. So coming to drama school, where a lot of other people were way less confident than me, I was like, you think, okay, all right, I have a little bit more confidence, and it gives, and that confidence feeds more it sort of grows more confidence, doesn't it? It's amazing that how important
100%.
that is. Yeah, so
100%.
yeah,
Oh my God. So it sounds like going to that drama school was just the absolute, it was such a pivotal point in your life, like where
yeah,
everything was coming together and,
I think so.
previous things that you had experienced in your life were starting to make sense. And like you said, bore fruits in the sense that not only did you feel more confident actually exploring different paths, but also
Yeah.
you were able to help, almost like karma, like, help others that essentially could represent four more aspects of you. Do you know what I mean? So people that did
Mm.
not have that confident when it came to dance or movement, not even dance, but like an expression of an energy through the physical shape, right?
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly,
No,
exactly.
I can really see that. And the
Yeah.
fact that I'm sitting here listening to you saying that at Trin, you were actually, a bit shy, fully sharing your voice. And when I was on that stage with you just a year ago, like I'd never heard you sing, and I was so blown away. Like
Oh
just
God, thank
such
you.
an amazing, beautiful, deeply emotional and expressive, unique
Oh,
voice. Like, yeah,
thank you.
just so I had no idea that you were actually that took, maturation to grow into and to dare to express fully.
Oh yeah, never had. I don't think I had all that confidence. I actually, it's funny because it was exactly a year ago. I think
Oh my God,
yesterday.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a full circle. It was exactly a year ago that we
This is
saw each other on stage for
very,
your show.
very
No way.
auspicious, Josephine. I mean, this is, I mean, the more, even more people, that was the catalyst. I mean, to be honest, I've always struggled with deciding what I wanted to do with my life, just as long as it's creative. And I think that's that's a good thing, a positive thing, and also like a negative thing. It can hold you back because then you don't really decide what you want to do. However, in this industry where it's so overcrowded, as we know, you gotta bloody hustle and be able to do a little bit of everything so that you can work, and keep busy. So I suppose there's positives in that respect, but then also at the same time, in the same breath, it's like, yeah, I've struggled to know exactly what I want. But now, but when I went to drama school and then in the sort of years after drama school, it all kind of it all consolidated, and I realized actually all of that was worth it. Like me doing all these different things and having all these wildly different experiences throughout my 20s was all for a reason, and it was all worth it,
100%.
and nothing was wasted. And I genuinely, no regrets with all the decisions I made. I think, well, you can't have regrets, can you? But it all is part of that rich broth or whatever, and so yeah. But yeah, drama school was so I got given the part of Ariel in The Tempest by my course leader Paul Goodwin. And he
Porscha, I'm going to stop you for one moment because our random, wonderful robot Hoover has started doing its thing. So feel free to chat, but I'll be back in 1 second.
Okay. Okay, don't worry. I might wait. The Hoover, the demon Hoover. Oh my goodness.
Okay, I've arrived back. We're good. We're safe.
Good, well done.
Yeah, I know, bless. So you got the part of Ariel.
Yeah, in The Tempest, Shakespeare's Tempest, and it's basically, I don't know if you know The Tempest. Ariel is a sprightly character similar to Puck, but is sort of a sprightly magical creature that sings a lot. And the reason why I got it was because I was a confident singer at the time, new confidently singer.
Yes.
And
Love it.
yeah, and anyway, so Paul, he was like, oh, yeah, you need to find there's some already written songs for Full Fathom 5 and all that kind of stuff. Oh, sorry. There's a one sec. I shouldn't be getting, so I put my my phone on
It's okay.
on thingy, so it's calls coming in. Sorry, that should have happened. And he was like, you need to find a song. There's some that are already written. Here's a few I think I know of, and you just go and find one. And I was like, I'd like to write my own, because I'd always written music when I was at school. I did composition in my music A level and stuff like that, so I was always really interested in writing music. And I'd always kind of played piano. I had that piano at home, so that was a huge kind of like a facet of me. And I loved writing songs. And he said, okay, well, if it's good enough, you can put it in. I was like, all right then. And I like a challenge. So I went away that weekend and wrote the song Full Fathom 5 that I was going to present for the play. And then I came back in on the Monday and we were doing a rehearsal, kind of like a run through of a lot of the scenes. And he's like, okay, right, Porscha, well, this your song, are you ready? Do you want to play it? And I was like, yeah. And I sang it and I played it, had a backing track that I'd done over the weekend on my laptop, my keyboard. And he was like, yeah, it's really good. You can keep it, put it in. And do you want to do the rest? And I was like, oh, brilliant.
Oh my God, how wonderful.
So that I was like, oh, great. He's like, can you write a couple more? I was like, yeah, absolutely. And so I was composer, I guess, for that play. And then also kind of did a lot of, sound effects, and I was sort of unofficial MD up until the point of the actual play. Obviously, I couldn't be doing MD whilst I was performing on stage. But yeah. So that was a pretty cool experience, and that was, I'd say, the catalyst. That opportunity was a catalyst for me to be like, ooh, I really love writing music and incorporating it into a story and a play of some sort. And that was the start of, well, what started as Ariel and it's now Alvera, which was writing music that had a narrative, or was part of a narrative. that isn't a musical with jazz hands. It's like a musical without the jazz hands, you know. And that was the start of that idea. And it's now 6 years or 7 years later. I'm still kind of developing the idea, but yes.
And the persona growing
And the
into
persona.
Alvera, becoming Alvera, and then
Yeah.
sharing, revealing Alvera.
Yes, exactly. exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it changed. It was Ariel, because in the play I was Ariel, and we had the late Shakespeare plays, Cymbeline, Winter's Tale, Tempest, and Pericles, all in one play that our course leader edited all together really beautifully.
Yeah.
And that was one of our performances that we had during the year. And he had given me the opportunity to kind of link them, you know, like you have in a physical theatre, immersive theatre piece, where you have characters that kind of link the audience when they're moving around on the promenade, link them into the next piece. He sort of gave me that opportunity. I became the kind of sort of quiet, silent MC, singing at times.
Love it.
And so that kind of gave me the idea of, oh, this is a kind of a persona, linking things and linking.
Oh, Porscha, you've gone quiet. I think I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Your audio. Let me hear you.
As
there we
went on to
go.
the speaker in the kitchen. Sorry
That's
about
all
that.
right. That's all right. Porscha, because I could sit and listen to you all day, and I'm just loving all of this, but I want to go into a juicy spot, which I think is something
Yes.
everyone can relate to. And out of everything that you shared with us so far, a juicy spot for me was the point where you said, I've never known what I wanted to do with my life.
Oh right, yeah.
Can you put a few more words to that? What's the feeling of that, or how does that show up for you?
I still struggle with that, because I just love creativity and being creative, but finding work is a very different thing.
Right.
I mean, the reason why I started this Alvera thing was because I had an agent when I left drama school. I had a couple of agents, you know, and you get work and then it doesn't happen, and it's sort of whatever. And then I thought, look, I don't want to sit here and wait for my agent to call me and give me an audition that I probably won't get. So I decided to write my own stuff, and that's why I started this. And so I sort of went from like being a conventional like actor with an agent auditioning for parts to someone who was writing their own stuff. And so then I just got onto the road of that, because it just gave me autonomy over my life and my
100%.
creativity.
100%. And it's also that thing where you're finding yourself in life where you're like, okay, you know, yes, I know I love to be creative, and I know that it is 100% who I am, but in the end of the day, I can't sit around and wait for the world to recognize me and give me money for something that I love doing, right? So it's that thing of like, well, where can I take charge? Where can I utilize what I love already, but at the same time be more in charge of it? So that thing of what you said of like, okay, I started creating my own things, essentially from a space of necessity, also because you wanted to write and you had always been, you know, but also from a space of necessity. And I think that's an important point, because otherwise from an outsider, it can always sound like really glamorous, this whole creative world, right? And even if someone is listening who might not identify or as a creative themselves, but this is something we can all relate to in life, right? That, you know, we have certain things that brings us joy, etc. And then all of a sudden, how can we connect that which brings us joy with also a sense of financial stability, or even just a structure in your life, right? You know, like having regular work or regular meetings or whatever it is, like having a structure in your life gives us a sense of grounding that as a human being, we all need to some extent, maybe in various patterns, but we all need some kind of stability. So coming back to you.
No, absolutely. I think, and I mean, that's what I struggle with to this day, is finding the routine, and that then also feeds into what I had to do or find as a side hustle, because you do need to pay the bills. And like, so when I decided to start writing my own stuff as originally Ariel and then Alvera. I needed to get a job that allowed me to do it, that wasn't sort of hours and hours and hours for like tiny amounts of money. I was like, what skills do I have? And I was very fortunate, and my ex at the time introduced me to a props master who worked in commercials.
Mm.
And I worked with him. I did one job and it was like, oh, brilliant, love this, got on. I worked really hard. It was my first shoot. It was an IAMS commercial.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and then that was it. And then I went on to the next, and it's how it is I went on to the next job. And then I was introduced to another props master, and both of these two, one is like my film brother, one's my film dad, I call them. And they sort of they took me under their wing and mentored me and taught me everything I know in terms of like the props department in film and TV. And that's what I did as a side hustle for about 6 or 7 years. And it was basically very good money. You earn a lot of money and you don't have to work all the time in commercials, because it's sort of on average 2 to 3 days a week.
Yeah.
You know, you're not there every day.
That's actually also, that was another moment where we orbited into each other.
Yes.
It was that like Marks and Spencer's commercial.
Oh my
where
God,
I randomly turned around the corner and there you were walking out of a truck with props.
Yes, out of a truck with prop. Yeah, exactly. That was it. Yes, that was it. So there we go. And we just crossed paths. How funny. I forgot about that. That was fantastic, Ad, actually. Yeah.
But I also think this is another juicy moment, just again, for other people to be reminded of, because there's always that thing in life. Again, whatever industry one finds oneself in, you know, we can sit there and sort of try and mentalize everything and try and go, well, I do this and then that happens, etc., etc. But not only is so much out of our control, but also B, amazing thing can happen and does happen that we're not even aware of yet, right? So that fact that your ex-partner introduced you to someone, you know, you have to be open-minded enough to say, yes, I'll give it a go.
Absolutely.
Which you were. And then from that one meeting, the next 6 years of your life, you had a structure, you had a stability, you also had some fun, you know, like this is, do you know what I mean? Like our life can literally change in a matter of a split second if we are open to it, you know?
Yes, exactly, Josephine. Exactly, because I could have said, "Oh, I don't think I can do this." Because you know, as an actor, you need a job that's super. Because it became a career for me for those sort of 6 years, which allowed me to do my other stuff as well in my own time. But yeah, it was just an incredible opportunity that I was given, sort of in a way by chance. I mean, it was literally because I always like to arrange things around the house. You know, set dress, as it were. Yes. And he was like, "You're really good at that. You'd be quite good in the art department." I was like, "What's the art department?" Had no idea it was a thing, you know? So there we go. It's like, oh, this whole new world opened up. And honestly, the fun I've had. And also, I sort of at the end of I've come back into working a little bit in the art department now, which is really nice, but I had this awful accident, which I think you know about. So which was on a job. I had my toes trapped in a closing tail lift on a props truck, and that was basically that. For the last 5 years, there's been sort of this whole kind of back and forth with the like kind of insurance situation with it, which has been really stressful and horrendous. But all of these things are sent to try, you know, you kind of, life is a tough ordeal, and it's I think it just these things are thrown at you and you have to just try and learn from them. I guess that's all you can do, and you go through this awful time, but you're going to come out of it, and I have just come out of it. It's all ended okay. I got something for it, which is amazing.
Oh my God, I'm so happy to hear that.
So which is amazing, which is a huge kind of thing. And whilst I have this kind of deformity on my foot, my attitude as well. I mean, when I was told by the doctors in the hospital that I was potentially going to lose, like I lost my toes in the end, I had them amputated, which you may know already, but for the listeners, it was a month in and out of the hospital with this crush injury of them being like, "Oh, we're not quite sure. Will they come back? Your toes? Are they going to repair themselves?" Because they couldn't operate on the broken bones because it was too much soft tissue damage. And so it was a month of me just not knowing what was going to happen to my toes on my right foot, and I'd been a dancer my whole life. It was just the most horrendous thing. And then the first thing, my brother came in and he told me this, and I was in such shock, as you can imagine. I just couldn't believe that was actually going to happen. We looked up online what Paralympics I'd qualify for without toes. So
Oh
that was
my
like,
God.
fuck it, I'll make good of this. So we like made a plan. I was like, right, can I do the 100-meter sprint or something? Like, what is it I can do, I can qualify for? And that was and that's how we kind of, I think that's how I got through, because I just thought, look, I'll do it. I'm gonna get back to dance. Right now, Josephine, look, I'm wearing my point shoes.
Oh my God, you are wearing your point shoes.
I am literally
at like 9:30 in the morning.
It's like I try and do my ballet every morning now, but as much as it doesn't always happen, but as much as I can, I try and do it every day. But yeah, and I do my point shoes to strengthen my feet. And yeah, it actually, funnily enough, because on that right foot, I've got 2 toes in the middle, my big toe's missing, and then the 2 other toes at the little toe and the one next to it on the other side. But funnily enough, point shoes make it easier for me to dance because there's more support.
Oh my God, how incredible.
So I can stand and balance a bit better with point shoes on. Yeah.
But even that, I mean, obviously, not to skip and jump and leap over, your intensely challenging experience in life. And, I'm so sorry that happened for you and you had to experience that. But this is just another potent example of how you literally on the day or week before operation, literally having to, them removing your toes, just absolutely terrible. You're still lying there like, okay, yes, in shock, driven by shock, but still going, well, what can I do? And it's just this mental attitude of what door is opening in my life. That thing of because the thing is, it's like the same thing when you said yes to that prop, with the ex-partner who introduced you to the prop guy, right? The prop dad or prop, whatever you called him, right?
Yeah.
You could have said no, because if you had been in a mindset of like, oh no, like kind of like EO from Winnie, life just isn't happening for me. Oh, the agent hasn't called. Oh, maybe I just shouldn't have been a singer. We can all drown in. I'm not talking about self-pity, but we can all drown in self-doubt and in the fear of life and in the fear of being seen and in the fear of failing and in the fear of fucking everything, right?
Yes.
And the fact that you were there lying in that hospital bed, still looking up Paralympics.
I know, exactly.
That is literally the quintessential Porscha. I loved it so much. And again, that is such a similar trait with myself. And I also think it's a similar trait with anyone, not just in the creative industry, because life itself is creative, right? Like essentially a creation is a response to something that's happening.
Yeah.
It's a two-way energetic thing. So, but just that thing, especially with you, that you still decided to go, well, what can I do? Okay, my love, I'm gonna fast forward us a bit. So what's happening in the life of gorgeous Porscha now these days?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm trying as much as possible to find the time to continue developing my idea that became Alvera. I think the year that we worked together last year.
Yeah.
That was so when that performance happened, I had this sort of more solid idea of what it was I wanted to do with that thing. Basically I booked the church, I booked the date, so that then I literally wrote all of that music and everything and in like 1 month, because I'd already booked the like day, and that was the only way if you got a deadline, I'm a deadlines girl.
Oh my God, I'm exactly the same.
So I basically sort of did a huge, like, just, I don't know, kind of rush into that. And then it became this thing, and the momentum was going. And then I did a few festivals last year, and now it's a year on. I'm like, okay, I really want to develop that piece. And so that is fundamentally in the front of my mind at all times. Like, when am I going to find, because I've got to do my tax return, I've got to work, obviously, to make money, I've got to do the house clean, all these things. And then I'm like, and then family things happening as well. And I'm always in the forefront of my mind, please find the time to continue the momentum on that project.
Yes.
And I've got some tentative plans in my head, but it's just about finding the time to kind of get to a place where I can then, move forwards with it. And so that's the big thing at the forefront, as well as potentially myself and my partner Charlie, we're looking for houses at the moment out in the countryside, out in the middle of it's near the Forest of Dean at the moment is where we're looking. And so all of that is quite all consuming as well, of course, because it's such a huge decision to make, getting all those sort of ducks in a row as well. And so there's a lot going on. There's me thinking, I've got to continue with this project and make something of it, but it still needs development. That's kind of where I'm at. I think it's a big time. Yeah.
Of course. And can I ask you, how do you manage to set a time, to choose the time, to prioritize the time for Alvera? Is it like, because again, in the end of the day, like myself, you're self-employed, so essentially you set your own structure and your own hours. How do you like, what's your go-to normally? Or does it literally just randomly happen organically? Or do you have to go? Sorry, over to you.
A mix. I mean, it often will happen organically. I'm a little bit, I think, undiagnosed ADHD, where I go from one thing to I'm like, oh, I'll do that, and then I go really into it, and it takes me a while to get into something, and then once I start, that's it. You can't stop me. There's a little bit of that, but I try if I can, and this is my New Year's resolution, is to be a bit more kind of regimented with my schedule. So rather than it, because I get a lot done, but it's all a bit scatty. So I think what I need to a bit more, and I get a bit anxious because of the fact that it's all a bit scatty, and so I try and eliminate that stress, because stress is the thing in your life that's going to make you ill and all that. Try and take that out. Just be a little bit more like, okay, so I wake up and maybe the first thing I do is my ballet, rather than getting on my laptop and looking for things and doing editing or whatever it is I'm doing. I'm working on a project at that point. Maybe just staying kind of disciplined, and right, the first thing is do my fundamentals, my foundations, my exercises each day. So ballet class, vocal warm up, and maybe just make sure that those are always done first thing, and then they're done. And then at least I've continued in the direction, and not let things slip, I guess.
And that is so good. And not only because it sets you up for a good day, but it's also that thing of, then you are engaging with Alvera, then you are engaging with that part of you that exists and that has a need to express through the body, to get into the body, and to even just claiming your own sound. And so I think, like you said, it's one of those things that I'm just going to name it as a non-negotiable for you. So the fact that you're recognizing that, no, before whatever else happens in the day, these things need to be done, because I know that to use a really kind of like clinical term, I operate at a much better level for everyone when this thing has been done. So in a way, like you are very aware of your routine, and you're choosing that routine because you know that is just what's going to keep you as grounded and as balanced as you can. So that you're ready for when the opportunity comes up to, hey, do you want to go and do prop? Then you're like, yes, I'm in the right headspace. I'll say yes. I won't be preoccupied with other things, or like in a headspace where I'm worried or anxious about stuff. So I won't be willing to take the risk of inviting in something new to my life. So I really, really get that. And something else that I also, again, just going back to the same thing, sorry, not just sit here and celebrate you, but I think it's just such an important point to cut across, this thing of like, I never fully knew what I wanted to do with my life. And it's this thing of, because that's not just you, Porscha, that's everyone on the planet. Like we might all get like, so at the moment you've got this like Alvera, right? And then, and that's beautiful. And that's kind of like, it's not a goal in itself, but it's an experience that keeps drawing you forward and onwards in life. And we all need those hooks, because if we don't have that sense of, because it gives you a sense of purpose, it gives your life a sense of, this is my driving force, right?
Yes.
And we all have that. And then I just think that, just because you are literally multifaceted and you are multi-talented, and the fact that you are great at a lot of things, and that does not mean that by definition you are not you don't have a specific purpose in life. It just means that there are many different avenues to you and
Yeah.
many different personas of Portia. And I think in
Yeah.
reality, as human beings, we all have, it doesn't matter, I have wonderful friends, clients, family members that perhaps for a living, they do one thing, but actually just like anyone else, they are
Yeah.
multifaceted. And just like everyone else, they might have an underlying of like, is this really am I doing the ultimate best with my life and my time on this planet? This is a human being thing that all of us are coexisting with.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, the sort of daily kind of challenge with yourself, especially as you get older, because I think when you're in your 20s, you've got your whole life ahead of you and you don't have responsibilities and you're not thinking about buying a house, you're not thinking about maybe having a child, all these things that are now
Yeah.
coming into my existence, into my mind and into my sort of sphere. And yeah, and so things change and you're like, and also your family, your parents get older, and my father passed away 4 years ago. A lot has happened in the last 5 years, and so it's really been like a baptism of fire for growing up and life, which has actually fed my desire to be creative and to express it and use that sort of pain and the experiences and the difficulties that I've gone through, and it's like incomparable to some people I know, but it's all relative to you, isn't it? And
Yes.
and so yeah, that using that and not letting it beat me down, and yeah, using it as a driver, I guess that's why I try to do as much as possible. Yeah. Yeah.
No, 100%. And it's also what comes across in your art. Obviously, I've always seen you being an amazing dancer and amazing actress, but to hear your voice, honestly, Portia, like the expression and what you filled that church with and what people
Oh.
felt of it was really healing. So, I'm an energy healer. So for me, it's like that's, like I really love what you portray and what you stand for and what you express, Alvera or not, just as Portia, but with that persona and using her as a vessel, the world
Yeah.
is a much not just brighter but more grounded and more real and more magical place. And
Well,
so
thank you.
yeah. So no, Portia, like but regardless of wherever you're gonna be next, I'm just here rooting for you and just like you said, using whatever you've experienced in life, not just using it in terms of like, okay, that can get me to the next job because that's external, but using
Yeah.
whatever life has brought you to add as wood to the fire, and the fire being your drive. Like
Absolutely. Yeah.
whatever you're feeling, that's your healing. Whatever you're
Yeah.
feeling, that emotion that you're sitting with, there's nothing wrong with the emotion, but that emotion, just planting it into that fire and let that be your drive.
And yeah, using it. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
In the best way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Portia, my love, I'm looking at time and I sadly
Yes.
have to love you and say thank you so much. But I want to ask a question for the show notes, because I know people are going to be listening and they're going to be like, oh, who is this Portia and where is Elvira? So will you share, like just share with me, well, share with us now and then send me a message after our interview is over with the details with where people can find you?
Yes. So I'm Alvera, which is Alvira. You can find me on Instagram, alvera.artist. I've got a link tree. It's the linktree.com/alvera.artist. It's just alvera.artist everywhere. And then on Spotify and all the music streaming platforms, and on YouTube. But yeah, if I show you the links as well, it'll be easier for people to find.
Of course. No,
Well. Yeah,
absolutely. We will do that. And I want to ask you one last thing before we say goodbye. Oh my God, I was just going to refer to you as Alvera. That's really funny.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh my God. Portia. If there was just, having lived this beautiful life that you've lived with all of the ups and all the downs and everything in between, if everything that your heart has felt as a human being, if there was just one message that you would like to share with people, what would that be?
Ah, um, I'd say I think literally, yeah, use find the silver lining. That is bloody it. That is it. You got to do it. You got to find the silver lining. Otherwise, you got to laugh. Otherwise, you cry.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yes.
find the silver lining.
And have a laugh.
Oh yeah, can I have two, like 1.5?
Of course.
So it's find the silver lining and also like have a sense of humor, even if you don't, like you can like cultivate that. I have, you take things. I used to work and take it very seriously, and one of my mentors in film had such a good, amazing sense of humor and always had fun. I was like, oh my God, that makes it so much easier and better for everyone here if we're finding the humor in things, because well, fortunately in this line of work no one is dying, and it's like, yeah, it's, if you can find the humor in life, that is going to get you through, I think, a lot easier, and everyone else around you. I think that's, yeah.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
Porscha, that is so important, so potent, and another link between you and I, because I've always had, and the thing is, the ballet world, I've always had this tendency to take everything extremely serious.
Yes,
And
exactly.
my
It's
new
from
my
ballet,
new
I think.
mantra in life is just like, my new mantra in life is like, be playful with it all, like be
Playful,
like,
yeah.
play with life, play with what you're trying. That doesn't mean you're not sincere, it doesn't mean you don't take responsibility, but
Yeah,
yeah, be
and work
playful with
hard.
life.
Exactly. Yeah, you can still be good at what you do, but just find the fun in it. Yeah.
100%. Mwah. Sending you so much love, and I hope
Oh,
to see
thank
you really
you.
soon. Thank you
Yeah,
so, so much.
very good to see you, Josephine. Thank you.
Bye, babe.